What you have heard is true. I was in his house. His wife carried a tray of coffee and sugar. His daughter filed her nails. His son went out for the night. There were daily papers, pet dogs, a pistol on the cushion beside him. The moon swung bare on its black cord over the house. On the television was a cop show. It was in English. Broken bottles were embedded in the walls around the house to scoop the kneecaps from a man's legs or cut his hands to lace. On the windows, there were gratings like those in a liquor store. We had dinner, rack of lamb, good wine. A good bell was on the table for calling the maid. The maid brought green mangoes, salt, a type of bread. I was asked how I enjoyed the country. There was a brief commercial in Spanish. His wife took everything away. There was some talk, then, of how difficult it had become to govern. The parrot said hello on the terrace. The colonel told it to shut up and pushed himself from the table. My friend said to me with his eyes, "Say nothing." The colonel returned with a sack used to bring groceries home. He spilled many human ears on the table. They were like dried peach halves. There is no other way to say this. He took one of them in his hands, shook it in our faces, dropped it into the water glass. It came alive there. "I am tired of fooling around," he said. "As for the rights of anyone, tell your people that they can go fuck themselves." He swept the ears to the floor with his arm and held the last of his wine in the air. "Something for your poetry, no?" he said. Some of the ears on the floor caught the scrap of his voice. Some of the ears on the floor were pressed to the ground.
Okay, so the speaker we can infer is a writer because, first of all, it starts off with what you have heard is true, so it's kind of implying that the person is talking to an audience. And then also, the colonel states at the end, "Something for your poetry, no?" So that kind of implies that the person that's reporting this is a writer.
So the occasion of this poem is stated at the end of it and is underlined in green. It's May 1978, and we can infer that they're in a Spanish-speaking country because it says that there was a brief commercial in Spanish, and they're talking about a show that was in English, and they were kind of surprised by that.
This is whoever reads the report-like poetry that the person has put out, and anyone who wants to learn more about the colonel. The purpose of the poetry is to inform the audience and expose the colonel. For example, the speaker goes on to say how the colonel said, "Tell your people they can go F themselves." And it also says a lot of other terrible things that the colonel has done, like the ears and everything else.
The subject of the poem was the colonel. The whole poem is explaining the speaker watching him, reporting on his life.
Yep, and the name of it is the colonel, so.
And the ears have a figurative idea that they are the people that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So the tone seems almost emotionless.
Yeah, it seems like the person is reporting, and the person has, like, no fear when the guy, like, pours ears out onto the table. There's no descriptive diction, and there's simple syntax, so the speaker is very simple in their reporting sort of tone.